Hey, what's up? Well, finally, I'm getting to make a video for the first time in a long time, and the stupid thing kind of fell down. And what I like to talk about in this video, I'll have a chance. I don't know how many more opportunities I'm going to get, which I'm trying to sort of back off on, the frequent videos. But what I first want to start out by saying is I'm wearing all camo, all the way down to my socks and shoes, if you can see that. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'm wearing all camo, including green pants, and just really nice to be wearing such camo shoes and matching camo everything, and a green necklace, green jade. It's just very nice. Everything comes together to do with your outfit. And what I want to talk about in this video, a number of things. Just loving the little bit of cool weather. Need to go outside and film my moon. But, I'm just really getting to the point where, since I don't have a lot of other topics, I may as well just not even make videos. So, love my hair this length. I wish it could stay that length forever. But what I want to talk about in this video is, just more of the same. I should hopefully be getting some last packages. And my mom is putting pressure on me to want to go with her for another trip, which I'd love to do that. But, another part of me wants to be here for Easter. And, I just don't really have a lot to talk about. And, I just want to talk about how, just how I've kind of gotten back into my Deviantart profile again. Cannot change the name from LittleMasterPoints, so I may as well just run with it and just, continue to make it more of what it was already about. Just make it, just a continuation of what I started doing a couple years ago. And I want to say that I'm a not so little master of points by now. The only thing little about me is my height and my lack of secondary male characteristics, despite a strong desire to do hard, back-breaking manual labor like a man, if that were possible. But, I just feel like, as much as I'd like to be a little boy, so to speak, hence the avatar change from that stupid, worn-out crown that I'd been having since, oh my God, before Sophia the First even existed. Oh my God. Like way back in the days, I guess, of Yahoo Answers. Because I used to have a Yahoo avatar, and then I changed it to that stupid crown. Like everything with LittleMasterPoints was basically that same simple blue crown, including my Twitter. And then everything with Little Miss Points was the hot pink version. And sometimes I might have alternated to a purple variation on it, but maybe a green one, I don't even know. But what happened was I used to use my Yahoo avatar, and then it switched. And, I just got so sick of that because Yahoo avatars were being phased out, and I may have even had some other cartoon avatar. But then I switched to that crown because I felt like, just felt like I was kind of lying. I really, it's like I don't want to show my real face on the one hand, but then I also don't want to lie about my appearance either. Like even though you can choose a cartoon character with blue eyes because it's pretty, or you can even go in purple eyes, it still feels disingenuous or dishonest or something. It doesn't feel right, to be lying, outright lying, about my brown eyes and pretending to be a blue-eyed fictional character. So that's where the crown thing came along, because, it just still never Nothing ever feels perfectly honest. Nothing. Because I would have to use a real picture of myself, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So anyway, that's where we are. And so, I just have to run with it because I don't have core and I don't want to get core. That's what I would need in order to change it. And then the bigger question is, what do I change it to? I'm kind of stuck with it. I've been LittleMasterPoints since roughly, on various websites since 2006. And I gradually phased that out within the past few years as it's got old. But here's the question, what do I put in that void that I'm going to like? You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, I could have another username, but just like status culture on Reddit, it might be something randomly generated that I hate just as much. So anyway, so I'm LittleMasterPoints on Deviantart, and I'm really not understanding the lack of engagement with my content. Simply because it's right up my alley. Obviously, that's why I posted it. I do not understand that. Why people are just so reluctant to comment on such things. Whether it's Tumblr, whether it's, well, I quit Reddit long ago after one really bad experience. Whether it's on here, well, it doesn't really matter where I post such things, but just the disinterest I do not get. So, anyway, so I do not understand the lack of interest simply because it's my content and I like it a lot, but obviously, if I didn't, I wouldn't post it in the first place. But I do not understand why, people in general just have never really had much of an interest in most of the things that I've ever posted. And when they did take an interest in it, it was in a very negative way. Like with TV tropes and IMDb and Reddit and 4chan and just those various sites that I don't ever want to go back to. But I think your mind would be blown if you did an image search for LittleMasterPoints. And some of that I really can't do much about because even if I deleted it all today, it would still be there. But just really want to just talk about that. How do not understand, why people have no interest in these revelations of mine. Because to me they're very shocking. They're mind blowing. I mean, if I saw something like that, I would just be totally blown away. And I'd want to investigate it, and I'd want to comment on it and talk about it in depth. But yet, few people ever have. And what few actual dealings I've had with people have largely been negative in the past. People just wanting to disconnect with me, disengage, block me, call me all kinds of horrible things that I'm actually not. Because I think if you really got to know me, and I often sit around thinking, now who is LittleMasterPoints? First of all, it's just a stupid name generated on Yahoo Answers many years ago with a long backstory. But yeah, it's first of all, it's something that it's a side of me that I have to keep hidden from my parents. I feel like I'm not even living on the same planet as my parents, really, especially my dad. And my mom comes closer to understanding me, but even she, if I truly, sat down and talked with her about these things, I just feel like, well, she either shut me down, say I don't want to discuss this anymore. She wouldn't get it, because a lot of these things, like in these movies, might even go over her head for all I know. Or if she did see it my way, and she did agree with me and did understand things the way I do, she could get so angry at me that she would be livid. She'd be just furious with me for having dedicated so much of my time and my life to these subjects. Like let's say I bought that movie, The Curse of Princess Ivy. I mean, it's bad enough I bought that Rugrat movie. And I don't know if she got it or what, but I shared it with her, kind of hoping to discuss it, but I just couldn't bring myself to actually tell her how I saw the movie at the end. But she showed a lack of interest in it, by and large. But I really wanted to discuss it with her and have a real conversation with her about these things. But I felt like she just either didn't see it my way or didn't want to discuss it, and so I just couldn't bring myself to do that and ruin the experience by going in detail about what I've been discussing on here, which is why I'm discussing it on here. But I feel like if my parents truly did understand these things, like let's say I bought that movie, The Curse of Princess Ivy, and I brought it to my mom's house and played it for her. Well, she either wouldn't get it, she wouldn't get it at all, which is probably the vast majority of people, I think, because you have to really pay attention and really have a high IQ. And if she did, she would be some kind of mad and might even break the movie, might even break the DVD on purpose and tell me I don't ever want to hear that you're watching something like that. And that's disgusting. And there's some creepy people at Disney. And they're disgusting people, just the same deductions that I've come to. And I just feel like there's just so much content in children's media that I'll probably never know about, that it's just all along the same lines. It's like they don't do these things, they know when they can and cannot be direct and why. Okay, they still want to sell their product. And if they cross a certain line, they simply won't. If it's too controversial, it will not sell. And, there'd be no point to make it. But I feel like they will do as much as they think they can get by with. And that the reason so many examples of that, which it may not be that many, but the reason why there are so many of such things all throughout children's media is because people don't call them out. People don't notice. And because they do go over most people's heads, especially kids, but also adults probably. Because there are so few people like LittleMasterPoints, aka me. Just this simple Southern person, or I guess I'm a woman who wants to be a little boy. Which is kind of sick, as if it were the other way around. I mean, there'd be no doubt that it's sick. But, it's just so few people like me. Because, and I feel like the talking animals, in all children's media, I feel like talking animals are one of the many things they do to kind of shoo away the most intelligent viewers. I feel like that is something they use. That is a tactic that they use. Talking animals, stupid songs that are just annoying as hell, don't really appeal to anyone. Those kinds of things, and especially hearing an animal sing, I feel like they do those things to deliberately shoo away the most intelligent people that could actually catch these things and call them out. Because it's almost like, what few people do catch them usually don't call them out, for the simple reason that they want them to go unnoticed. It's almost like an unspoken conspiracy. Don't call it out, or those kind of cool things won't happen as much anymore. And then it would be left with just boring crap. But, and I think to myself, but it's like, I feel like I have no one to talk to about it. No one. And that gets very lonely. I can't really talk to either one of my parents. Because as I've stated before, either, number one, they won't get it. They will refuse to let me explain it. You know, they'll cut me off, shut me down. Just like with my AI music, they just don't want to hear it, you know, because it actually reflects me and not so-and-so's breakup with some woman that's never named in the song. You know, because it actually comes from within. They don't want to actually hear it. They don't want to listen to me. And so, you know, they won't let me explain it. Number one, if I tried to, they would just cut me off. Number two, if I were ever successful in explaining these things to the extent that I've articulated on here, like if they were to watch these videos, I feel like it would be hell on earth, because they would, I mean, it could really hit the fan. Like if they truly realized just how bad these things are, you know, I mean, they could try to destroy my dolls, they could tear up my artwork pertaining to these characters, they could tear up some coloring books. And I feel like it would be very bad, you know, even if I could successfully talk to them about it, which is why I don't. And I just discuss these things on here. Because, you know, it's like the more you look into it, you dig deeper and you find more. It's almost like seek and you will find. And I feel like, you know, the more I look at it, the more I see the same thing with Cedric that was there with Angelica in a different way. It's almost like a repeat performance, almost like the same people, you know, went from one network to another. Yeah, it's almost like you would think some people quit their job or lost their job at Nickelodeon and moved to Disney and did the same exact thing. Or, you know, like there was, you know, like with Rocket Power, there's a lot of the same people working on Rugrats that also did Rocket Power and the Thornberrys. And I feel like, you know, that's why TV trope exists, because there's so many similarities. And they gradually fade, you know, as things get old and worn out. They get phased out and new tropes emerge. But, you know, it's just these covert mentions of bowel functions with especially antagonists. Yeah, they know they can't be too overt about it, but it's like you dig deeper and you find, oh my gosh, what if Cedric was a diaper lover, just like Angelica being a diaper girl? What if he got nervous every time the kids touched his abdomen because he was padded in a thick cloth diaper? Oh my gosh, what if that was just a day in the life for him? And it's like you can't help but see that these are poop faces that they were making. It's like, how can anyone argue that that wasn't? How can anyone argue? How can anyone be so stupid as to argue? I mean, certainly they don't actually believe that she wasn't pooping in that scene, or that, you know, because Tommy could have also been doing it, that she could. I mean, yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, what kind of an idiot makes an argument like that? Seriously. How stupid do you have to be to make such an argument? I mean, surely you don't expect someone to actually believe that. I mean, that would be like me saying, like, if I said, like, if somebody came to me and said, I think Chucky crapped his pants in that movie. I mean, I would not try to say, no, he didn't. I would say, what makes you say that? I wouldn't say, no, he didn't. Angelica did. Because that doesn't make any sense. They're not mutually exclusive. And I feel like the way that Chucky may have done it is another covert way they have of saying that a character crapped their pants. They have somebody fall on top of him, just like Lars. And it's like, you know, displacing matter. So, you know, I can't help it if I actually have the intelligence to understand the human body and how it functions. And, you know, I can't help it if I understand physics and biology and psychology and the look on people's faces. You know, I can't help it if I'm not just some retarded 20-year-old boy with the mind of a little child, you know, that draws like a 6-year-old. I mean, I can't help it if I, you know, if I actually have some talent that I'm wasting on crap like that. And I also can't help it, you know, if as a 40-something adult and a Bible-believing Christian, I'm starting to see these things for the time wasters that they actually are. And I'm starting to take an interest in more adult things to the point where I feel like certain things are being pruned away. It's like I'm not getting new childlike interest. I'm simply rediscovering old ones. Because when something doesn't interest me, it absolutely doesn't. And my brain refuses to discover it and waste time on it. Because unlike this day 28 years ago when I was in the 7th grade, that awful year, it's like the time is just flying on by. It's like, oh my God, we're going to be Easter pretty soon. Where did the time go? And I know that, you know, the future is only going to fly by faster. And so I don't need all these time wasters. I don't need all these cartoons. And so when I get all this negative feedback and flack, you know, from young kids that won't accept, you know, that their favorite character actually has a GI tract and isn't perfect, and in the case of Angelica may not have been 100% potty trained, and in the case of Cedric might be a wizard with magical ways of dealing with accidents or on purposes, and in the case of Lars, is just a gross teenage boy who does extreme sports that scare it out of him. You know, I can't help it if I actually have the intelligence to discover such things and to actually draw the characters even better than they appear on TV at times. And so, you know, back to who is LittleMasterPoints. Oh, and one more thing I want to mention, because I keep forgetting. The thing about Rugrats, you know, in retrospect, you know, there was just always something, like I've stated before, these covert mentions, these things that you just kind of roll your eyes at, you know, because they go by so fast. Well, I mean, even some of the, not necessarily the show, you know, because, I mean, it's just always at a subconscious level. I've always been ashamed of my interest, and rightfully so, because I was 14 when I discovered it. And I never wanted any t-shirts, you know. I mean, I want cool clothing, not stupid juvenile clothing. But I think the humiliation of wearing such clothing might be something they get off on too, just like the diapers. But even, you know, way back in the 90s, even just some of the advertisements for these shows really creep me out. And this thing about Drake Bell, which, believe it or not, the irony is that some of the youngest voice actors on the show were not the youngest characters. And what I mean by that is Drake Bell and Amanda Bynes played a very small role in the later seasons. You know, they had live action shows, but they came, and Amanda Bynes was Taffy, and Drake Bell was Dusty in one episode, Lil's Fill of Trash. And, you know, when I hear about these scandals, you know, going on with them being abused and all that by people working for Nickelodeon who later got jobs with Disney, you know, it can't help but creep me out. You know, even if there was nothing wrong with the Rugrats show at all, you know, the fact that they, you know, two of the characters, the teen characters, were being abused in the way that they say they were being abused, even that in and of itself, you know, would make the show something wrong and to be ashamed of liking. That in and of itself, that's all I really need. Even if there was no objectionable content within the show. But it seems like I can recall something that really kind of creeped me out back in the 90s, 97, 98, 99-ish, late 90s. I think it was Drake Bell. It could have been another actor. But, you know, it's like they'll phrase it as a joke. You know, they make it seem like it's something funny to laugh at. But when they would do these little advertisements for Rugrats, like, you know, tune in to Nick at 7 o'clock to see Rugrats. And one of the things they did was they put this big cloth diaper, makeshift diaper on him. Obviously, he probably had underwear inside of it, but he said, "Hey, dirty diaper over here." And even if that's supposed to be a joke or funny, you know, it's still, to me, I mean, it can't help but be creepy in retrospect. If that's who it was saying that. That could have been another young man, for all I remember. But, you know, just stuff like that. Just little things, you know, that kind of go by and people don't really notice them or pick up on them and see them as creepy. Even if that were the only thing wrong with the series, the fact that, you know, actors being abused on the sets of other shows were occasionally put on the show to voice minor characters. Even if that were the only thing wrong with the series, still wouldn't be something to advertise on my clothing. And, you know, I just feel like I keep asking myself, who is LittleMasterPoints, really? Am I a creep, as they say I am? Am I an F to M? Am I a butch woman? What the hell am I? But, you know, I'm really just still trying to figure that out in my 40s. I'm not little, you know, as the name implies incorrectly, other than my height not being tall. But, and of course my voice, you know, not being in the male range for obvious reason. But I think about it and I just see myself as an ordinary Southerner. You know, just an ordinary American, a conservative Republican American that kind of got caught up in some crap that I'm recognizing as such. And really, it shouldn't have such a big involvement in my life as it does. And what I want to end with is my dream profession. This should tell you a lot about me. If I could have had any job in the world, what would it be? I asked myself. And I've always, at least for the past 20 years, for me it would be a train conductor. And the reason why that's always been my fantasy, not only do I like trains, but at a deeper, more philosophical level, because people all my life have refused to listen to me, which has a lot to do with me wanting to get on testosterone and live as a male. People have ignored me my whole entire life, whether it's my parents, whether it's my classmates, my cousins. You know, they would all be appalled by these videos. Whether it's people just not leaving comments on my videos or anything else I post online that I think is very interesting. People have just ignored me my whole entire life. And I've always fantasized or dreamed of being a train conductor, because people would have one of two options. They could either listen to me blowing that horn 4 times at every crossing, or they could be killed. Those would be their options, and that is my dream job.
It's going to feed animals.